We found our way home, but a multiverse of madness awaits. So this is the perfect time to catch up on the Marvel Multiverse. What are the rules? What are the possible consequences for ripping and restitching the fabric of reality? We're gonna find out soon, so round up your variants, folks, cause it's time to cram it. We were first introduced to the multiverse in Avengers Endgame. Thanos' snap erased half the universe's population in a cosmic event so large, so final, that the Avengers had to go back in time to fix it. And this was the first time in the Marvel Universe we heard about the existence of other realities.
This new branch reality, without our chief weapon against the forces of darkness, our world would be overrun. Millions will suffer.
Well, actually, that's not entirely true. In Thor, we learned about the 9 realms of Asgard, which technically exist outside our reality. We heard about the quantum realm, which is its own submicroscopic universe with its own rules and even societies. And we've also heard about other universes in that trippy sequence in the first Doctor Strange. Strange also employed a version of time travel using the Time Stone to save our world from the ancient evil known as Dormammu. There was also a glimmer of the multiverse for Wanda Maximoff, aka the Scarlet Witch, at the end of WandaVision. There's a scene where she seems to hear her children beckoning her from a universe as yet undiscovered. But I digress. The possibilities of changing reality and the concept of one true timeline to be tampered with or restored, all of that was introduced in Avengers Endgame. After the snap, the Avengers had no choice but to time travel.
Time travel!
But it's important to know that in the Marvel Universe, time travel works a little differently. The Avengers can't just go rock out to Johnny Be Good and play matchmaker with their parents in order to heal time. Going to the past creates a new reality. It doesn't just overwrite the same timeline as before. So when the Avengers devised their mission to stop Thanos and cancel his little population control plan, they couldn't just go back in time and,
First of all, that's horrible.
They had to strategically attack the past, grab the Infinity Stones, then use them to create, in essence, a new branch reality because
Changing the past doesn't change the future.
the Avengers sought to settle a score and put everything and everyone back in place. But there were a few major casualties because in the Marvel Universe, time travel isn't a free ride. There is always a toll. The Loki series introduced us to the concept of a force dedicated to preserving the one true timeline. In Loki, we are introduced to the TVA, seemingly an entire bureaucratic administration dedicated to keeping reality on the straight and narrow. They are incredibly powerful, with their agents able to subdue even gods. These wimpy little bureaucrats can destroy entire timelines with the push of a button. They say they do this because
Long ago, there was a vast multiversal war. Countless unique timelines battled each other for supremacy, nearly resulting in the total destruction of, well, everything.
And this is the crux of the multiverse in the Marvel Universe. Too many universes allow for too many people who will eventually be able to perceive that there are other universes. This will lead to someone or even a group of someones fighting to make their world the one true universe. Good thing
The all-knowing timekeepers emerged, bringing peace by reorganizing the multiverse into a single timeline.
the TVA sound like great people until you examine their methods. See, the people who stray from the path of the sacred timeline are dangerous because their refusal to stick to the script causes
A nexus event, which left unchecked, could branch off into madness, leading to another multiversal war.
These uncooperative folks are tried for their crimes, but it seems like most end up disintegrated. So when Loki teams up with another Loki variant named Sylvie, they discover that the TVA isn't as all-knowing or as impregnable as they thought. The TVA employees turn out to just be variants themselves, forced to live an endless existence of servitude to the one true timeline. But what makes it the one true timeline? Who are the timekeepers, and why do they get to decide what's a time-worthy life? Why is suppressing Sylvie's existence so important to the one true timeline?
Me being born the goddess of mischief. And as soon as that created a big enough detour from the sacred timeline, the TVA showed up, erased my reality, and took me prisoner.
In the 4th episode of Loki, The Lokis, are brought before the Timekeepers. But with the help of a TVA agent, they are set free and destroy the Timekeepers, showing them to be just empty automatons. The Lokis are so important because their being evil and tricky is deemed necessary to the natural flow of time. Any deviation from their role as trickster antagonists causes nexus events that reshape time, causing multiversal catastrophe. In episode 5, we find out where all the Lokis go when they're deleted from time. They are sent to the Void, a place at the end of time where it's presumed they can't cause any trouble. In fact, classic Loki calls himself and his merry doppelgangers
God of outcasts.
If they try any funny stuff, they are eaten by an energy-consuming beast called Alioth. Following classic Loki's brave example, Sylvie and Loki enchant Alioth and end up in a grand castle at the end of time. That's where they meet He Who Remains. This powerful being explains that it's no accident that they were able to get this close to him. He explains that the real multiversal war is between himself and me. He tells the story of a variant of himself who lived in the 31st century, who discovered universes stacked above and below his own. He says there was peace for a time,
Narcissistic, self-congratulatory peace.
but peace nonetheless. But then the versions of himself that wanted conquest rather than peace began to appear. There was a multiversal war that he put an end to by weaponizing Alioth, the beast at the end of time. He gives Loki and Sylvie a choice. They can kill him, thrusting the multiverse back into war, or they can join him and run the TVA more benevolently. While he's waiting on Team Loki's answer, the timeline starts branching in ways he has no control over for the first time in millennia. Sylvie is too scarred from the trauma of being chased all over existence by the TVA, so she hurls Loki into another reality and she kills He Who Remains. And thus, we have our present-day Marvel multiverse. It's now a reality vulnerable to all of the multiversal events we've seen recently, like No Way Home's Too Many Peters and the Multiverse of Madness. Meanwhile, one of He Who Remains variants, a conqueror named Kang, will appear as the antagonist in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. The multiverse is now a free-for-all for anyone with the power and the technology to traverse it. Even Shang-Chi's rings are now reportedly calling across space and time, beckoning to someone or something.
A beacon.
They're sending a message.
A message to where?
Now we hear you screaming, what about what if? Look, there are enough multiverse shenanigans in that series to fill 10 videos, but this is basically what you need to know to understand what's going on in Multiverse of Madness. Besides He Who Remains and his minions, there are only a few other beings who are aware that the multiverse actually exists. One is, of course, the Watcher, who observes the multiverse from a space just outside it. Another is the aforementioned Scarlet Witch. There's also Ultron in the Vision's body, who became aware of the multiverse and even could see the Watcher himself. But he was defeated in episode 9 by...
Thank you, Stephen.
And besides, what are friends for?
So yeah, we're not talking about him anymore. In the end, the two most important figures in What If, the ones that will surely appear in Multiverse of Madness, are number 1, the dark version of Doctor Strange, a version of the Sorcerer Supreme who lost his mind and eventually his world, trying to undo the death of Christine Palmer, which in his reality was an absolute moment, something that happens and will always happen no matter how many times time is manipulated. And the other character sure to show up in Multiverse of Madness is an ultra-powerful ruler of countless dimensions named Shuma-Gorath. You may recognize him as the creature depicted here, the one that was summoned by the Red Skull. Peggy Carter temporarily shoved him out of her dimension, but he is a devourer of universes, so we're sure that Shuma-Gorath and Dark Doctor Strange, the only person in the multiverse to ever have truly subdued him, will both feature heavily in Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness. So now you know how branching timelines make up this maddening multiverse that we'll be exploring for the next few years. We have officially entered one of the most exciting times in the history of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and we can't wait to traverse it with you.